Texas teen convicted of murder and robbery, the shocking case of Uriah Urick. Before we dive in, kindly hit the subscribe button and let us know where you are watching from in the comment. The Texas sun was brutal that day, the kind of heat that clings to your skin and makes even the wind feel heavy. It was a quiet neighborhood in Rusk County, the kind of place where everyone waved to each other, where kids still rode bikes until dark. But on this afternoon, something felt wrong. Inside a small, one-story home sat 66-year-old Carolyn Martin, a grandmother, caretaker, a woman known for her kindness, and for always opening her door to family, even when they didn't deserve it, and that would be her fatal mistake. Carolyn wasn't expecting visitors that day, but when she saw her granddaughter's boyfriend, 18-year-old Uriah Urick, walking up her driveway, she didn't hesitate. She smiled. She let him in, because that's what good people do. She had met him before. Polite, quiet, a little rough around the edges, but nothing that screamed danger. He was dating her granddaughter, and that was enough reason for Carolyn to show him kindness. But Uriah wasn't there to talk. He wasn't there to help with chores or ask about her health. He had a different plan. In the weeks leading up to that day, Uriah's life had spiraled. He was only 18 but already deep in trouble. No job, no money, and whispers about stealing, drugs, and anger problems. Friends said he was desperate. Family said he was dangerous. And prosecutors would later say that desperation turned into a deadly motive. He needed cash, fast, and he knew exactly where to get it. From the woman who trusted him most. The official reports would later describe it as a robbery turned violent. But those words, they don't capture the horror that actually happened inside that quiet Texas home. When Uriah stepped inside, Carolyn had no reason to be afraid, but something in his eyes had changed. They weren't the same eyes she'd seen before. They were cold, empty. He looked around, scanning the house. She offered him a drink. He refused. Then, the tension cracked. No one knows the exact moment when kindness turned to terror, but investigators believe it happened fast. One moment, he was standing in front of her. The next, violence erupted. He attacked her. Blunt force trauma. Repeated blows. The medical examiner would later confirm she suffered injuries so severe they could only come from rage. And when it was over, when her lifeless body lay still, Uriah began searching. He rummaged through drawers. He opened her purse. He took what little she had, cash, cards, valuables, and walked out as if nothing had happened. It was senseless. It was cruel. And it left a community in disbelief. For hours, no one knew what had happened to Carolyn. Family members tried calling. No answer. Her neighbors noticed her car in the driveway, but no movement inside. Finally, concern turned to fear. A relative decided to check in. When they opened the door, they stepped into a nightmare. Carolyn was gone, her body left where she fell. There were signs of a struggle. Blood on the carpet. A shattered item near her chair. It was brutal. The call to 911 came in at 7:43 p.m. The dispatcher's voice was calm. The caller's voice was shaking. "There's blood everywhere," they said. "She's not breathing." Detectives arrived within minutes. Rusk County deputies sealed off the home. Crime scene tape flapped in the humid air. And word spread fast. A grandmother murdered in her own home. Everyone wanted to know, who would do this? But when investigators learned who the last person to see her alive was, the story took a darker turn. Neighbors reported seeing a young man walking away from the house earlier that day. Dark hoodie, head down, carrying something. When police showed them photos, they pointed. "That's him," one said. "That's the boy who was here." The boy was Uriah Urick. Detectives began piecing it together. They found messages between Uriah and his girlfriend. Messages that showed tension, arguments, talk of money. They discovered that Carolyn had recently helped her granddaughter financially. It seemed harmless, but to Uriah it was opportunity. That night, police began the manhunt. They checked his last known address, empty. They tracked his phone, turned off. But he had made one mistake. He used one of Carolyn's stolen cards shortly after the murder. That transaction gave investigators exactly what they needed. A location. A gas station security camera captured him at the pump, using the card. He looked calm, almost casual, as if he hadn't just taken a life. Within 24 hours, they had him in handcuffs. When they brought him in, Uriah said little. No emotion, no apology, just a blank stare. He told investigators he didn't mean for it to happen, but the evidence said otherwise. Blood on his clothes matched the victim's DNA. His fingerprints were found in her home. Her stolen items were discovered in his backpack. It was enough to charge him with capital murder and aggravated robbery. The case was airtight, and yet, what haunted detectives wasn't just the crime itself, it was his age. Only 18, barely an adult, old enough to be charged, too young to understand the depth of what he'd done. The town of Henderson, Texas was shaken. This wasn't a big city crime. This was a small community, the kind where everyone knew everyone else's name. Local headlines called it a crime that defies understanding. Neighbors described Carolyn as the sweetest soul you'd ever meet. Her church held vigils. People lit candles outside her home, and whispers of anger spread. How could he do this to her? Meanwhile, Uriah sat behind bars, his mugshot splashed across the news. His eyes were hollow, his face emotionless. The same face that once smiled in family photos now stared coldly from police reports. His family said they were shocked. His girlfriend stopped speaking to him. Her family, shattered, caught between grief and betrayal, didn't know what to say. And as weeks turned into months, the community waited for justice. Investigators pieced together the timeline. He went to her home around noon. She let him in. The attack happened soon after. By 12:45, her phone went silent. By 1:10, he was at the gas station. By 2 o'clock, he vanished. All within 2 hours. 2 hours that destroyed 3 lives. The victim's, his girlfriend's, and his own. During interrogations, Uriah barely spoke. But detectives could see the anger beneath the surface. They asked why. He just shrugged. At one point, an investigator said quietly, "She trusted you." Uriah didn't respond. He just looked down at his hands. The autopsy confirmed the brutality of the attack. There were multiple wounds, injuries consistent with blunt force trauma. The medical examiner said she fought back. That detail broke the hearts of everyone who knew her, because it meant she saw it coming. It meant she realized what was happening. Too late to stop it. By the time the case went to court, prosecutors had everything lined up. Surveillance footage, forensic evidence, testimony from family and neighbors. They painted a clear picture. Uriah didn't just make a mistake. He planned it. He saw an elderly woman as an easy target. They called it a crime of greed and disregard. The defense tried to argue that it wasn't premeditated, that he panicked, that he snapped. But the jury didn't buy it. As the trial began, the courtroom filled with emotion. Family members cried quietly in the back row. Reporters scribbled notes. Uriah sat at the defense table, his face unreadable. Prosecutors showed the jury the photos, the crime scene, the evidence, and the gas station footage that sealed his fate. The walls were gray, the lights were too bright, and in the middle of that small room sat 18-year-old Uriah Urick, the boy everyone was now calling a killer. He didn't look like one, not at first. He looked like any teenager you might see at a gas station or walking home from school. But when detectives looked closer, they saw it. The emptiness, the cold stillness behind his eyes. He sat slouched in a metal chair, hands cuffed, face blank. A detective slid a can of Dr. Pepper across the table. Uriah didn't touch it. "Do you know why you're here?" the detective asked. No answer. Hours earlier, officers had tracked him down at a friend's house. He didn't resist. He didn't run. He just sighed and muttered, "I knew this was coming." Now, inside the interrogation room, that same calm terrified investigators. No panic, no regret, just quiet. They started slow. Questions about his girlfriend. Questions about Carolyn Martin. He said he knew her, called her Miss Carolyn, said she was nice, that she always helped out. But when the detective asked if he'd seen her that day, he froze, a flicker in his eyes. A tiny muscle twitched in his jaw. And that's when they knew he was lying. "Uriah, we already know you were there," the detective said. He slid a photo across the table. A still image from the gas station surveillance camera. Uriah stared at it. His reflection stared back. The same clothes, the same backpack, and the same stolen debit card in his hand. He swallowed hard, then whispered, "I didn't mean for it to happen." It was the first crack in his silence. The first glimpse into what really happened inside that house. Detectives leaned forward. "Tell us what you mean," one said softly. "What didn't you mean to happen?" Uriah looked at the floor. Then he said it. "I didn't mean to kill her." The words hung in the air like poison. One of the detectives crossed his arms. "She was your girlfriend's grandmother," he said. "She trusted you. She let you in. Why would you do this?" Uriah didn't look up. He just whispered, "I needed money." That's how it started. A robbery. A desperate, ugly grab for cash that spiraled into something far worse. Uriah told them he went to Carolyn's house to borrow some money. But when she refused, or maybe hesitated, something snapped. "She said no," he muttered. "She said she didn't have anything." He paused, then said quietly, "I got mad." Detectives waited. He didn't say more, but the details in the crime scene told the rest of the story. Forensic investigators had found signs of struggle in the living room. A broken lamp, blood spatter, furniture pushed out of place. It wasn't a quick or silent death. Carolyn fought back. She tried to defend herself, but the blows kept coming. By the time it was over, she was gone. And Uriah, instead of calling for help, chose to rob her. He took her wallet, her car keys, her jewelry, even her phone. He left her lying there. The detectives didn't need a confession to build their case. The evidence was overwhelming, but they wanted to understand why. "What did you think was going to happen?" one of them asked. Uriah shrugged. "I just wanted to leave town," he said. "She had money. I thought if I had some, I could start over." Start over. Those two words made the detective's stomach turn. Because starting over meant killing a woman who had once hugged him, fed him, treated him like family. Outside that room, investigators worked nonstop. They combed through Uriah's phone records, text messages, social media. They found a digital trail of anger. Messages to friends saying he was tired of being broke. Posts complaining that nobody helps. And messages to his girlfriend. Hints that he was planning to handle things his way. Prosecutors later called it premeditation. Uriah called it a mistake. But it wasn't just a mistake. It was a choice. Detective Ramos, one of the lead investigators, told reporters later, "It was the kind of case that sticks with you, because it wasn't random. It was personal." He remembered walking through Carolyn's home that night. The smell of cleaning supplies mixed with blood. The sound of a clock still ticking. "She was probably just sitting there watching TV," he said. "She probably didn't even see it coming." When news of the arrest broke, the community was stunned. An 18-year-old, a boy accused of murdering a grandmother. The story spread fast. From local TV to social media to newspapers across Texas. Neighbors who'd once smiled at Uriah now crossed the street to avoid his family. Old photos of him at school, grinning with friends, playing basketball, began to feel eerie. Because now everyone knew what those hands had done. While detectives built their case, prosecutors began preparing for trial. They had everything they needed: the confession, the stolen items, the DNA, the surveillance footage. But they wanted to make sure the jury saw who Uriah really was. They painted a picture of a young man consumed by selfishness and greed, someone who saw kindness as weakness. And in the months leading up to trial, that image only grew darker. In jail, Uriah didn't act remorseful. Guards said he was quiet, polite even. But every time his case was mentioned, he'd smile just a little, almost as if it wasn't real to him. He wrote letters to a few friends. One said, "They're trying to make me look like a monster." Another read, "It was an accident. She wouldn't give me what I needed." But that last sentence revealed the truth. It wasn't about survival. It was about control. Meanwhile, Carolyn's family struggled to breathe through the grief. Her daughter couldn't sleep. Her granddaughter, Uriah's ex-girlfriend, stopped speaking publicly. The pain was too deep. At the funeral, the pastor said, "She was a light in this community, and someone took that light away." Her photo sat near the altar, smiling, radiant, full of life. And everyone in that church asked the same silent question. How could he? Back at the sheriff's office, detectives reviewed the case files again and again. They weren't looking for new evidence, they were looking for meaning. Every photo, every report, every timestamp, they all pointed to the same thing. Uriah had planned this, whether he admitted it or not. He knew Carolyn was home. He knew she had money, and he knew she trusted him. He used that trust as a weapon. When the trial date was finally announced, the courtroom overflowed. Reporters lined the hallway. Family members clutched tissues. The judge reminded everyone to stay composed. And then the door opened. Uriah walked in, wearing a gray suit, hands shackled. He didn't look at the crowd. He didn't look at the family. He just stared straight ahead. The silence in that moment was deafening. The prosecution started strong. They walked the jury through every detail, step by step. They showed photos of the crime scene, played the interrogation recording, and then they brought in the gas station footage. The jury watched as Uriah casually swiped the stolen card. One juror later said, "That was the moment I knew he was guilty." The defense tried to counter. They argued that Uriah acted in the heat of the moment, that it was not premeditated, but the facts were merciless. Then came the hardest part, the victim impact statements. Carolyn's family took the stand. Her daughter spoke first. Her voice trembled. "She loved you," she said, looking directly at Uriah. "She would have helped you. All you had to do was ask." Uriah didn't blink. He didn't look away. He just stared, cold, detached, unfeeling. For more chilling true crime stories, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. The trial was over. The verdict was in. Guilty. But for investigators, one question refused to die. Why? Why did an 18-year-old boy, barely out of high school, choose to kill a woman who had once fed him, hugged him, and opened her home to him? What happened inside his head before that moment? In the months after the verdict, the story of Uriah Urick didn't fade. If anything, it grew darker. Behind bars, the teenager began to reveal pieces of himself no one had seen before. Not even his family. His cell was small, 8 by 10 feet. A steel bunk, a toilet bolted to the wall, and a narrow window that faced nothing but another wall. Guards said he kept to himself. He read books, wrote letters, rarely spoke, but when he did talk, what he said chilled them to the bone. One guard remembered him saying, "She wouldn't stop screaming. I had to do something." Another recalled, "She made me feel small my whole life." Not anymore. That guard never forgot those words, because they didn't sound like regret. They sounded like pride. The deeper detectives dug, the more twisted Uriah's world became. His childhood wasn't easy. His parents divorced when he was young. His father was barely around. His mother worked long hours. He bounced between homes, his mom's, his dad's, friends' couches. Everywhere he went, he carried the same quiet anger. Teachers remembered him as smart but cold, always distant, always alone. One teacher said, there was something off, like he didn't understand right and wrong the way other kids did. When investigators interviewed old classmates, a clearer picture emerged. He talked about getting rich one day, one friend said. He said he'd do whatever it took. Another remembered a fight he had at school. He hit this kid and didn't even flinch, just stared at him after like it was nothing. Small moments, little warnings, all pointing towards something broken inside. But things got worse when Uriah started dating his girlfriend, Carolyn's granddaughter. First, he was charming, funny, the kind of boy any teenage girl might fall for. But soon, the cracks began to show. He became controlling, jealous, possessive. He didn't want her talking to other boys, didn't want her spending time with friends, didn't even want her grandmother giving her advice. Carolyn noticed, and she didn't stay quiet. She told her granddaughter, "He's not good for you. You deserve better." That didn't sit well with Uriah. In texts later recovered by investigators, Uriah complained that her grandma doesn't respect me. In another, he wrote, "She needs to mind her business or I'll make her." At first, the girlfriend thought he was just venting, but those words turned prophetic, because just weeks later, Carolyn would be dead, and Uriah would be holding the weapon. Psychologists studying the case later said Uriah fit the profile of what's called a reactive killer, someone who doesn't plan a murder for months or years, but instead explodes in a moment of rage when something doesn't go their way. But prosecutors disagreed. They believed it was premeditated. He needed money. He knew Carolyn had it, and he knew how to get inside without suspicion. Either way, the result was the same: a grandmother beaten to death in her own home. In jail, Uriah's calmness only added to the mystery. He didn't cry. He didn't rage. He didn't even ask what would happen next. When one guard told him, "You'll be here for life," Uriah simply said, "Okay." That same night, he wrote a note on a scrap of paper and taped it above his bunk. It said, "Pain is temporary. Power is forever." No one knew what it meant, but it said everything about who he'd become. While the world saw him as a monster, Uriah saw himself as a victim. In one letter, he wrote to a friend, "They made me like this. Everyone turned their back on me. I had to survive." But the truth was, Carolyn had tried to help him. She'd given him food, money for gas, a place to stay when he and his girlfriend fought. She saw potential in him until the day she saw danger. After the murder, detectives found a journal in Uriah's backpack. Inside were half-scribbled entries, drawings, and a chilling list titled, "Who I Can Trust." Carolyn's name wasn't on it. Underneath, he'd written, "People only care when they need something. I'm done being weak." One drawing showed a hand holding a knife, another a house on fire. The handwriting was erratic, heavy strokes, letters carved deep into the paper. It looked like the mind of someone spiraling into darkness. Reporters soon dug into his past online. Old social media posts began to surface. Selfies with guns. Videos of him rapping about getting even. Captions like, "Ain't no love in this world." One post, dated just weeks before the murder, read, "Sometimes you gotta do bad to get ahead." Chilling words in hindsight. In one of the most haunting interviews, a former friend of Uriah's told reporters, "He talked about robbing people before. We thought he was joking, but when I saw his mugshot, I knew he wasn't." That same friend said something that stuck with everyone watching the case. He wanted to be feared. That's all he ever wanted. As Uriah's psychological evaluations came in, they revealed more unsettling truths. He showed traits of narcissism, impulsivity, and lack of empathy. The psychologist noted, "He sees people as tools, things to be used for his benefit." When asked if he felt sorry for Carolyn's death, Uriah responded, "I mean, I wish it didn't happen, but what's done is done." Cold, detached, almost mechanical. Even his own family began to distance themselves. His mother stopped visiting. His siblings refused to speak publicly. A cousin later said, "We didn't know he had that kind of hate in him. He fooled all of us." But did he really fool them? Or did everyone just choose not to see it? As time passed, the community tried to heal. Carolyn's house was cleaned, repainted, and sold. But neighbors said the air still felt heavy there. Like the house remembered. People driving by slowed down. Some left flowers by the mailbox. Others crossed the street without looking. It became a quiet memorial, and a reminder of what greed and rage can destroy. In the courtroom, prosecutors called Uriah a soulless killer. But behind bars, other inmates called him something else. Kid. They didn't see a monster. They saw a lost teenager who didn't belong. But Uriah didn't care what they thought. He kept to himself. He worked out. He read books about mind control and self-mastery. When asked what he wanted to do with his life, he said, Learn how to never be weak again. That line fascinated journalists because it revealed what might have been driving him all along: power. Not money, not revenge, but power. The power to take, to control, to decide life and death. Something he'd never had growing up. Something Carolyn had. Love, stability, respect. And he didn't. And maybe that's what made him hate her most. Detectives closed their files eventually, but they couldn't shake one thing. If Uriah hadn't been caught, would he have done it again? Some believed yes, that Carolyn was just the beginning. Others thought the guilt might have eaten him alive. But after seeing him in court, calm, composed, almost proud, most doubted it. He wasn't haunted. He was content. The final psychological report summed him up in one haunting sentence. He lacks remorse, empathy, and conscience. A dangerous combination in someone so young. It went on. The courthouse in Denton County was packed. Reporters, family members, curious locals. Everyone wanted to see the young man accused of murdering his girlfriend's grandmother. The boy who once smiled in high school photos now sat in silence, hands cuffed, dressed in a navy suit that hung loosely on his frame. His name, Uriah Urick, had become a headline. The prosecution called him a cold-blooded killer. The defense called him a misguided teenager. And as the jury took their seats, you could feel it. The tension, the weight of what was about to unfold. The prosecutor began, calm, calculated, every word sharp enough to cut through the air. This was not an accident. This was not a mistake. This was greed, plain and simple. Uriah Urick brutally murdered an elderly woman, someone who welcomed him into her home, all for a handful of valuables. Photos flashed on the screen, the victim's smiling face, the crime scene, blood, broken glass, and chaos. The jurors turned away. One woman clutched her notepad tightly, fighting the urge to look again. Then came the defense. This was a tragedy, the defense attorney said, his voice shaking slightly. But Uriah is not a monster. He's a boy who fell under bad influence. He made a terrible decision, one that he will regret for the rest of his life. The courtroom was silent. The only sound was the faint hum of the air conditioner. Everyone knew this trial would be ugly. The prosecution wasted no time. They brought in police officers, forensic experts, even digital analysts. Every detail was mapped out, from the blood spatter on the walls to the messages Uriah had sent before and after the murder. A detective stood on the witness stand. He clicked a button, and the screen lit up with a series of text messages. Messages between Uriah and his girlfriend. Messages that prosecutors said proved motive and intent. "We'll get what we need," one message read. "She's old. She won't fight back." A gasp spread through the courtroom. The defense objected immediately, but the judge allowed it. Then came the photos, graphic, haunting, undeniable. The grandmother's injuries, the overturned furniture, the empty jewelry box. Each image felt like a dagger. The jurors shifted uncomfortably. Even Uriah looked away. Then came the emotional gut punch, the family. The victim's daughter, the mother of Uriah's girlfriend, took the stand. Her voice cracked as she described the moment she found out her mother was gone. "She trusted Uriah," she said softly. "She let him in. She gave him food, money, everything he needed. And that's how he repaid her." Her words pierced the silence. Even the defense attorney couldn't look up. Then came Uriah's girlfriend. The courtroom waited. Would she defend him? Blame him? Tell the truth? When she spoke, her voice trembled. "We didn't mean for it to happen like that," she said. "It got out of control. He didn't stop." The prosecution leaned forward. "Did Uriah strike her?" A pause. "Yes." And in that single word, the air seemed to vanish from the room. When it was their turn, the defense tried to humanize him. They called teachers, neighbors, a pastor who said Uriah once helped with youth programs. They painted a picture of a boy who lost his father young, who struggled in school, who was desperate for acceptance. "He's not evil," his attorney said. "He's broken, and he made a mistake. But the prosecution countered with facts. Cold, ruthless, precise. The detective came back on the stand. He held up a small plastic bag. Inside it, a bracelet covered in dried blood. "We found this in Uriah's backpack," he said. "It belonged to the victim." The courtroom froze again. And as Uriah's eyes met the evidence, you could see it, the flicker of fear, regret, or maybe realization that this was the end. The trial lasted 7 days. 7 long, emotional, painful days. Every witness, every piece of evidence, every tear shed. It all led to this moment. Closing arguments. The prosecutor stood before the jury. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. "This wasn't an act of desperation," she said. "It was an act of betrayal. The victim trusted him, loved him, treated him like family, and he took her life for money. That is murder, plain and simple." The defense had one last chance. "He's 18, his attorney pleaded. "He can change. Don't throw his entire life away. Show him mercy." The judge gave the jury their instructions. And then they were gone. Hours passed. Then came the knock. The jury had reached a verdict. When the jurors returned, no one breathed. The foreperson stood, holding the small slip of paper. "We, the jury, find the defendant, Uriah Urick, guilty of murder in the first degree." Gasps filled the courtroom. Someone sobbed in the back row. The victim's family clutched hands, crying quietly. Uriah didn't move. He just stared at the floor, eyes empty, lips trembling slightly. The judge thanked the jury, then spoke directly to him. "You took a life that cannot be replaced. This court sentences you to life in prison." And just like that, the teenager who thought he could outsmart justice was gone. The guards approached, cuffed him, and led him out the side door. The sound of his chains echoed down the hallway as the cameras rolled. Outside, reporters shouted questions. People debated what drove him. Was it greed? Was it love? Or was it something darker? Something that had been inside him all along? The story didn't end in the courtroom. Social media exploded. #Uriah Urick trended across Texas. Some people said he deserved everything he got. Others said he was just a kid, a victim of circumstance. His girlfriend faced charges, too. The town that once knew them as that cute couple now saw them as a cautionary tale. The victim's family tried to rebuild. They spoke to the media. "We want people to remember her name," the daughter said, tears in her eyes. Not his. Her name became the quiet refrain of the case. The reminder that every crime story, no matter how sensational, begins and ends with a victim. As the news cameras rolled footage of Uriah being led away, something strange happened. He turned back, just for a second, and stared into the lens, cold, detached, as if he knew the world was watching. And then he was gone. Another name in the system. Another life lost, too, actually, the victim's and his own. Because in this story, no one truly won. Not the family, not the community, not even justice, just heartbreak and silence. The courtroom doors closed that day, but the echoes of that verdict still linger. People still talk about it, the boy who chose greed over love, and the grandmother who paid the price. But what if there was more to it? What if this wasn't just about money, but about manipulation, secrets, and hidden truths that no one ever saw coming? The courtroom was silent now, the crowd gone. The echoes of that guilty verdict still hung in the air like a ghost that refused to leave. Uriah Urick, just 18 years old, had been sentenced to life in prison. But even after the cameras turned off, the story didn't stop. It was just beginning to unravel, because the deeper you looked, the more disturbing it got. And soon, people would start asking a haunting question. Was Uriah really the only one to blame? A week after the sentencing, the courthouse steps were littered with reporters' footprints. The headlines were relentless. Texas teen convicted of killing girlfriend's grandmother. Uriah Urick sentenced to life without parole. Justice served? Or something more sinister? Those words sold newspapers, but behind them was a family still shattered. The victim's daughter couldn't sleep. Her nights were filled with flashes of the crime scene. The sound of police radios. the smell of bleach that lingered long after the investigation was done. Meanwhile, Uriah's mother sat in her small home, holding her son's senior photo. She told local media, "He wasn't perfect, but he wasn't evil. I don't believe he did this alone." That one sentence reopened a wound the town had just begun to close. Detectives had gathered everything, the texts, the fingerprints, the stolen jewelry. It seemed airtight. But when the case files were reviewed post-trial, a few strange inconsistencies surfaced. First, the stolen jewelry was never sold. None of it. It was found buried behind an abandoned property on the edge of town. But the ground showed 2 sets of footprints, not one. Second, neighbors reported seeing a car leaving the scene that didn't match Uriah's. A silver sedan. Unknown plates. Third, and perhaps most chilling, a voice message was discovered on the grandmother's old cell phone. It was sent the night before the murder. You could hear her voice, trembling. "I don't feel safe with them here. They've been whispering all night. Something's wrong. Them, not him." That single word changed everything. After the verdict, Uriah's girlfriend, Haley, stopped talking. She refused interviews, refused to testify in appeals, refused to even look at Uriah's family. But when detectives revisited her months later, her story began to crack. At first, she repeated what she'd said in court, that Uriah acted alone, that he got angry, that she froze in fear. But the detectives pressed her. And then she broke. "You don't understand," she whispered. "It wasn't supposed to happen like that." "Then tell us what was supposed to happen." She looked up, tears in her eyes. "It was just supposed to be a scare, just to get money. He didn't plan to kill her. We just needed cash." But when she fought back, he lost it. Detectives took notes quietly, but one detail made their skin crawl. "You said he lost it, but earlier you said we went there." "Who's we?" "Haley." Her silence was deafening. Then, almost under her breath, "Someone else was with us." That statement sent shockwaves through the department. They went back through phone records, security footage, and social media messages. And that's when they found him. An older friend of Uriah's, 19-year-old Eli Sanders. A name that had been mentioned once during the investigation, and then quietly buried. He was known around town as a troublemaker. Petty theft, vandalism, always one step away from real trouble. But after the murder, Eli disappeared. No one had seen him in months. Detectives traced his last known location to Oklahoma, a small town just across the border. And there, parked outside a rundown motel, was a silver sedan. Eli Sanders was arrested without a fight. When police opened the motel room door, he didn't run, didn't argue. He just looked at them and said, "Took you long enough." In his possession, a burner phone, fake ID, and a small notebook filled with scribbles. Inside it, one chilling entry stood out. "Uriah's losing it. Haley's scared. We just needed a plan. Not this." When questioned, Eli refused to talk at first. But eventually, he cracked under pressure. "It wasn't supposed to go that far," he said. "We were just going to rob her. Uriah was supposed to grab the jewelry. I was the lookout. But when she screamed, everything went wrong." He paused, head in his hands. "He panicked, and I ran." His confession confirmed what Uriah's mother had always believed. He didn't act alone. But the law had already spoken. Uriah was serving life. So now, prosecutors had to decide, reopen the case or let it die quietly. Uriah's defense team filed for appeal, arguing that key evidence was suppressed and a second suspect was ignored. It took months to reach the courtroom again. But when it did, the tension was just as heavy as before. The judge reviewed the new confession, the footprints, the voice message. The question wasn't whether Uriah was guilty, The question was whether he had been the only killer. In his written appeal, Uriah said, "I didn't mean for her to die. I swear I didn't." Eli said, "We just needed money. I didn't want to hurt her." But the court wasn't sympathetic. The appeal was denied. Eli was charged as an accessory, but because he hadn't struck the fatal blow, his sentence was far lighter. And once again, Uriah faced a life behind bars. Alone. Behind the cold gray walls of a Texas prison, Uriah became just another inmate number. Days blurred into weeks, weeks into months. He kept to himself, rarely spoke, and spent hours writing letters that no one read. The guards said he was quiet, polite even. But sometimes, late at night, they'd hear him whispering to himself, "I didn't mean to kill her. It wasn't supposed to happen like that." One letter he wrote, never mailed, ended up in the case file. "If you're reading this, I want you to know I'm sorry. Not just for what I did, but for what I became. I can't take it back. I can only hope one day someone will forgive me, even if I never forgive myself." He signed it, UU. Back in Texas, the town slowly moved on, but never forgot. The victim's house was sold, renovated. New people moved in, unaware of the tragedy that once stained its walls. But the locals still told the story. The diners, gas stations, school hallways. "That's where that teen killed his girlfriend's grandma," they'd whisper. He seemed so normal. The story became urban legend. Parents warned their kids about falling in with the wrong crowd. Teachers used it as a cautionary tale. But beneath the gossip, one thing remained constant: the heartbreak. A family lost a beloved woman. A young man lost his life to prison. And a community lost its sense of safety. A year later, a local journalist reopened the case for a documentary. She interviewed detectives, lawyers, and both families. Her goal wasn't to excuse Uriah, but to understand him. She uncovered school records showing that Uriah had been suspended multiple times for violence, that he'd been in counseling, that his father had died when he was 12. She pieced together a life of instability, neglect, and anger that eventually boiled over. Her documentary, titled Before the Murder, went viral. Millions watched. Some viewers sympathized with Uriah. Others called it propaganda. But one clip stood out, an interview with Haley. "I still see her face every night," she said. "And I still hear him screaming after it happened. I'll never forget it. Never." That one line reignited debate. Was Uriah a monster, or a broken boy caught in a terrible storm? In early 2025, something unexpected happened. For more chilling true crime stories, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel.